So good. We love quotes. We love reading.
Oh my god.
My brain just is not functioning.
Yeah,
okay,
evidently.
let's try this again. Hey babes, I'm Sam Cole, and in today's video we are going to be doing our 2023 book tag. I'm going to be taking the questions from Destiny Sidwell. She did her 2023 book tag a little bit earlier this week, and she took questions from her following, and I thought that it was just a great way to kind of assess and reflect on all of the reading we've done this year. So let's go ahead and get started. Okay, question number 1 is the most disappointing read of the year. I honestly really loved pretty much everything I read this year. I don't know if this is a good or a bad thing, but I'm one of those people that if I'm not enjoying something, I'm just gonna put it down. So really the only book that was truly disappointing for me was I read an ARC copy of None of This Is True by Lisa Jewell earlier this year, and I was really disappointed by it. I'll link my Goodreads review down below. It just tackled certain topics in a way that I felt wasn't appropriate and was really disappointing. It got a little too close to victim blaming and all of that stuff for me to fully be able to enjoy it. At first I thought it was intentional, but I don't know, it just rubbed me the wrong way, and I don't think that it was done effectively. So unfortunately that was my most disappointing review and read of the year. The next question is Underdog Book of the Year. I don't really know if this can be considered an underdog. I know that it's really popular, but I don't know how many people have actually picked it up and read it. So I'm gonna go with Priory of the Orange Tree by Samantha Shannon. I absolutely loved this book. I feel like not enough people give it a chance due to the size of it, which I mean is fair, but it's really not that horrible. I think it's only around 800 pages. It seems a lot bigger than that, and I honestly read it on my Kindle so I wouldn't have to hold this behemoth of a book. If you are able to get past the page count and get it on your Kindle and kind of just take it for what it is and recognize that it's going to be a longer book, it's really so good. There's amazing representation in it. The world building is beautiful. I mean, I just ate this world up. It was so good, and for that I'm gonna say that this is the underdog. I just wish that more people would take the leap and read it. So for all these questions I tried to limit to just one book, but for some of these it was just too hard. So some of these are gonna have multiple books for the answer, but I'll try to make it as quick as possible. So the next question is a book that was overhyped. I feel like this is a tough one because I mean there's an audience for everything, right? And just because I didn't like it doesn't mean that all of the other people that did are wrong in any way. And so I'm gonna take this as a book that just didn't live up to the hype for me. And so the first one of that is The Song of Achilles by Madeline Miller. I know I'm gonna upset some people by saying that, but it was honestly just really, I don't know, it was kind of disappointing for me. I really love retellings and Greek mythology and all of that fun stuff, but this just kind of fell flat for me. It really wasn't my cup of tea. I had such high hopes for it because I had heard such amazing things, but I don't know, it just kind of dragged. It just really did not live up to the hype for me. Personally, I felt like the pacing didn't work for me. It was too slow, but then at the last quarter of the book was randomly sped up, and parts that I wanted to spend more time on were just kind of passed over. So yeah, I didn't really care for it. I mean, it's still a really good book. Obviously, tons of people love it, but it just wasn't for me. And then the other book that I feel is overhyped is Tomorrow and Tomorrow and Tomorrow by Gabrielle Zevin. I know that so many people love this book, and I was really expecting to as well. I really loved the concept of the video game industry and having been a part of just the gaming community in my little way. I was really excited and really was looking forward to that kind of literary fiction take on it. When I finally got around to reading it, it just didn't work for me. I thought it was going to be really cool with the gaming industry tied in and kind of that literary fiction like lens, but unfortunately it just didn't work for me. The pacing felt really off, and the like modern day and like political references just felt a little too forced for me. It honestly took me out of it. It felt very forward in trying to make certain statements, and I just felt like instead of just allowing the reader to come to their own conclusions, it felt a little forced, and because of that I didn't love it. And honestly, I was buddy reading it with one of my internet friends, and if I weren't doing that I probably would have DNF'd it. But yeah. Okay, so favorite book couple of the year. This is one of the ones that I just could not pick just one, but I will try and be quick about it. My first book couple is Nora and Charlie from Book Lovers by Emily Henry. I had a whole like video where I went through and read all of Emily Henry's books for the first time this year, and I absolutely loved this book. It was so good. I really can't even describe how perfect I felt this book was. Their banter and their relationship with each other and the way that they challenged each other, and just all of that was so good. It felt like they really got each other on a real level. It wasn't perfect and they had to work on some things, but it was just so good, and I felt that they were just a perfect couple. So number one is Nora and Charlie from Book Lovers. And then next up, I'm not gonna say specifically who the couple is just because I feel like it could be a spoiler, but the main couple in relationship in The Priory of the Orange Tree is just god tier. Honestly, it was so good. It was love on a real emotional level, and how they supported each other and really understood the ramifications of their relationship, and I just felt that that was so good. So yeah, again, another reason to read Priory. And then we have Behind the Net by Stephanie Archer. The main couple, Jamie and Pippa, were so cute. I loved this book so much. It was one of those romances that really just stuck with me. I think that a lot of the time I go to romance specifically as kind of like a palate cleanser, or just a nice read to have in between fantasies. It's a nice little slice of life, happy read, but this one really hit me on a different level, and I think that their relationship and how they supported each other and all of that, the banter, all of that was just so good. And then I could probably say a ton more, but I'll only do one more, and that is Peyton and Kai from Powerless by Lauren Roberts. I'm sure you have heard about this book ad nauseum by this point. I truly can't think of a better example of perfect banter. These two, I guess, are technically not a couple, but I mean, you know, love interest. The banter between these two is so good. I mean, I don't know any other book that I had the physical reaction to than this one. I mean, I was kicking my feet and giggling, and it was just so good. It was really I don't know, it just hit different. The banter and their witty conversations with each other is really what made them a perfect book couple in my opinion. Okay, and then the next question is favorite main character of the year, and I have a couple for this one as well. My first one might be a little bit of a stretch, maybe bad luck to say it right now, but I'm in the middle of the Caraval series on Legendary, and I am in love with Donatella's character. I think that she is so funny, and just she has such a head on her shoulders, and she's so confident, and I think that that was a really interesting that's so loud.
Hmm?
Your typing is so loud.
Sorry.
It's okay. I think that it was a really interesting breath of fresh air from the first book. I really love Scarlet as a character too, but I think that they are just so different. They're such foils of each other, and I think that that really added to how much I love Donatella, but like I said, that could be dangerous to say when I'm not even done with the series, but as of this moment, I really love her. And then next up we have a reread from this year, so it might be cheating a little bit, but that is Nesta from A Court of Silver Flames. I mean, I think I've talked like ad nauseum on how much I love this book and this and Nesta and all of that. I am a Nesta apologist until the day I die, and so I won't go on, but she's so good. I think that this, you either love or hate her, and I'm firmly in the love. And then last up for now, I'll only do one more, has to be Jax from the Once Upon a Broken Heart World Trilogy series. He is just so well written, and I think that his, I don't know, just what you learn about him and his backstory and everything is just so good, and I absolutely love it. And honestly, his character was the main reason why I decided to go back and read the Caraval series, and it's so good. Obviously, I would have loved to have read that first, but I'm still enjoying it either way, so yeah, Jax has my heart. Next up we have a book that surprised you. I have a couple for this one. My first one is going to be Crying in H Mart. This was a memoir that I read at the beginning of the year. I think it might have been the first book I read this year, and it was so good. I don't know how many memoirs I've read, but this, I mean, was really impactful, and I was not aware of the author beforehand, so I did not go in with knowledge of her and her life and all of that, and so, but it was still like equally as powerful for me, and I didn't come in with any like preconceptions or anything, if that makes sense. But it really was a beautiful way to learn about her and to explore her culture and her relationship with her mom and her family, and just like the women in her life and their relationship through food was just stunning, and I absolutely loved it. And it really surprised me how impactful it was and how much it has continued to stick with me. And then the other book that we have is Happy Place by Emily Henry. If you've seen my reading vlog of reading all of her books, then you probably already know what I'm gonna say, but I read her books in order of release, and so Happy Place was the last one I read, and I was so mad after reading this book. Not mad, just I think I remember turning to my partner and literally saying, this is not a cute little rom-com, and like with tears in my eyes and crying. I was not aware that this was more of like a lit fic type book with romance rather than a romance book, and so I was very taken off guard and surprised by this book. But upon reflection, it has become one of my favorites of Emily Henry's. This is probably my second favorite, right behind Book Lovers, and I think that was just because it was written in such a way that really made you question like your relationships with the people around you and friendships, and how you really have to like fight for each other in order to stay in each other's lives. And I think that like a lot of the time you think that like relationships and friendships should be easy, but true friendships take work, and I think that that was really impactful and made me very surprised with how much I loved this book. Okay, next up we have new favorite author that I discovered this year, and I have a couple, and I just realized that they're all female authors, which is just like a really fun, cute thing. And first up is definitely Stephanie Garber. As I was saying, I had not read any of her books prior to this year. I started with the Once Upon a Broken Heart series, and then now I'm reading Caraval, and I just absolutely love her writing style. She gives just such life and personality to her worlds, and how she kind of creates these, I mean, like fairy tale-esque style fantasies. I don't really love like fairy tale retellings that much. At least I haven't found any that really stick with me. But something about her writing is just so good, and I think it's because it's so lyrical and the characters and the world she builds are just really at the forefront, and I think because of that, I mean, I'm definitely gonna read anything she puts out now. Next up, we have Rebecca Ross. She is the author of A River Enchanted and A Fire Endless, and obviously Divine Rivals and Ruthless Vows that come out. Ruthless Vows comes out, I think, the day after Christmas. She is amazing. I have not yet read Divine Rivals. I'm waiting until a little bit closer to Ruthless Vows, but I ate up this Elements of Cadence duology. It was so good. Her writing is just, I don't know, I'm a sucker for lyrical prose apparently, but she just had such a way of creating her environments and her characters. I mean, the story is so character driven, and that's not to like bash on the plot because the plot is there, but her characters are really just the most impactful thing. And how I loved how this was like a folk fantasy, and which made it very like nature driven and like the gods and all of that, and I really loved reading about that, and so I cannot wait to read Divine Rivals and then read anything else that she writes. Next up, we have Stephanie Archer, who's the author of Behind the Net and a ton of other books that I read this year, like That Kind of Guy and all of that. I'll like put all the covers right here. I can't think of them all right now, but I absolutely love her writing. Something about her romances just really hit different for me. I just love them. They are such quick and easy reads, but they all impact me a little more than I was expecting with romances, and so I have not gotten through all of her backlog yet, but she's one that I'm always just like picking up the next one. And yeah, I'm gonna just read whatever she puts out. So I really just loved finding her this year. Okay, next up we have Happiest Read of the Year. I think I have two for this. I have Powerless again because, like how I was saying, it just made me giddy. I mean, I had such a visceral reaction to reading this book that, I mean, it just made me so happy. It was one of those books that really reminded me of how much I love reading and how impactful reading is, and how, I mean, not everything needs to be so serious. Like, you can have fun and just enjoy a book for what it is, and so I really loved that, and it made me very happy. And then the other book that I read this year that made me happy would be Done and Dusted by Lila Sage. I think that this was such like a moment in the book community this year. I think a lot of us picked up and gravitated towards this book this year, and we kind of all did it at the same time, which I thought was a lot of fun, and it was really nice connecting and feeling that sense of community and camaraderie around this book. And also, I mean, it's such a cute, fun cowboy romance, and which just, I mean, it was just so fun and happy and lighthearted, and so it was a really great read. Okay, most frustrating book I read in 2023. I think that's going to also be None of This Is True by Lisa Jewell, that I put in my most disappointing reads. I won't go on about that, but yeah. Okay, and then we have Best Adaptation of the Year. I was trying to rack my brain on any adaptations that I have watched this year. Okay, I just took a moment to talk to my partner because to really discuss whether or not we've watched any adaptations this year, and I really can't think of any off the top of my head right now. I really want to watch the All the Light We Cannot See one on Netflix. I read that in high school and haven't gotten around to watching it yet.
I also read it in college.
And Tucker read it in college. And then we watched the Fall of the House of Usher, that series on Netflix, which is like retellings of Edgar Allan Poe's works, but I don't really know if that counts. So that's probably the closest thing that we've watched. I did watch the Summer I Turned Pretty show, but I haven't read the books, so obviously, like, I don't know how well that is adapted. But yeah, I think that is all I know so far. The longest book I read this year has got to be either Priory of the Orange Tree or Kingdom of Ash. Kingdom of Ash is 980 pages. Priory of the Orange Tree I think is like 804. So the longest book I read this year was Kingdom of Ash, which is not surprising. I mean, this is a thick boy, but yeah, so Kingdom of Ash was the longest read of this year. And then the shortest book I read this year, I actually can't find physically, but it was Address Unknown. This was like the second book I read this year, and it's a story. It's like a short story, obviously. I think it's only what? Goodreads says it's 96 pages, and it's basically just the story about these friends. Basically, it's a story told through letters of...
Address Unknown.
Yeah, I like can't think of how to explain it.
Address Unknown was...
It was a story told through letters, but it's a work of fiction that essentially is thought of as like... Oh my god.
Wow. Dude, just say what I said.
What did you say?
I said...
It is considered the first...
Oh my god. This is not that hard.
My brain just is not functioning.
Yeah,
okay,
evidently.
let's try this again. I can't do it.
Where is it? Do you have it in here?
No, I can't find it.
Address Unknown is a story told through letters that was, oh my god, all the books are falling. That was printed as a magazine and distributed around the world, and it's considered pretty much the first piece of literature. All of these books are falling. Considered pretty much the first piece of literature that told the rest of the world what was happening at the very onset of World War II in Europe and what the Nazi Party was doing.
Thank you.
Okay, all your books are falling.
That's okay. Thank you, Professor Tucker. Alright. I don't know why I couldn't get that out. It was a really good book, clearly. I mean, I know I'm not being very, like, I don't know, expressive. I don't know the words right now. It was a really, really good, very quick read. It was only 96 pages according to Goodreads. Something that I really liked about it is, like, despite all the laughing and giggling right now, but it was really impactful, and it was a really cool experience to be able to read this work of fiction that had such a historic position in like our world, in the real world, and how it actually affected the world really during this time. So yeah, we're gonna move on since apparently I am not coherent right now. The next question is favorite covers of the year. I am a sucker for a good cover. I have said that over and over again, and so I have several on this list. The first cover that I have, it's really just a travesty that I do not have it on my shelves yet, but it is Crying in H Mart. I think that this cover is stunning, and it has such a great... I don't know, it's such a great representation of what the book is actually about, and I think because of that, and also just the like really stark in your face red cover is just stunning, and I'm just gonna keep doing my hand like this, but yeah, it's really beautiful, and I wish I had it on my shelf. I've talked about it over and over again, but I'm going to show you again, is the Priory of the Orange Tree. I think that this is just stunning. Obviously, it's the reason I picked it up in the first place. It caught my eye. Just beautiful. Next up, we have Done and Dusted. We've already talked about it, so I won't go too into it, but this cover, I mean, is stunning, and the Swift and Saddled cover, the second book in the interconnected standalone series, is coming out, I think, next year, and that cover is also stunning. I can't wait to have both of these on my shelf. They're just beautiful. I have A River Enchanted and A Fire Endless. I mean, I've talked about this over and over again, but these covers are just honestly some of my favorites that I have. They are so beautiful, and I think that they're really representative of the books themselves, but I mean, they're works of art. I would have posters of these up on my walls. They're just so good. Okay, next question is a book I haven't stopped thinking about, and I have a couple. The first one is obviously Kingdom of Ash. I finished my read of Throne of Glass this year, and I had read all the way up until about 100 pages into the tandem read, so I had not finished the tandem read or ever touched Kingdom of Ash. And I mean, if you've read this series, I think you know and you get it, but this story is just such a beautiful, I mean, it's just such an amazing end cap on this series, and perfectly like answers any questions you have, ties up loose ends, gives all the characters, you know, a place to go at the end of it. And I really think that everything was so well thought out. And I know it's like funny, it's like, can a book ever really be this serious? Like, does it really need to be this long? And the answer is yes. And I think that if it was any shorter, it would have done the story an injustice. So I really just can't stop thinking about this book. The events that happen in it, the stories, the characters, all of that is just so good. And then last but not least, on a book that I can't stop thinking about is Tender is the Flesh. This book is really something. I really enjoyed it. It is very uncomfortable, very graphic, very unsettling, but I think that obviously that was the point, and I think that if you think you have the stomach for it, and it's totally valid and fine if you don't, but if you have the stomach for it, I really think that you should read it. It was very impactful, and it really makes you think about our world in general. But yeah, I'm not going to say too much, but really good. Check trigger warning, see what it's about before going into it, but yeah, if you can read it, please do. Next question is cringiest book you read this year. I didn't read a whole lot of cringy books, I wouldn't say. I mean, a book that gave me like the ick is, again, none of this is true, but let's just move on. Unpopular book you loved. That's a hard one. I think I don't always hear amazing things about Circe. I know that there definitely is an audience for it, but I think that when people think of Madeline Miller, I think you kind of either like Song of Achilles or Circe, and I loved Circe a lot more than Song of Achilles, so I really loved this one, and I feel like, I mean, you either love or hate this book, but I think it's really good. What was the highest and lowest rated book that I read on Goodreads? And do I agree with those ratings? So I went through all of the books that I read, and I was super surprised with the lowest rated one. The lowest rated book that I read this year was The House Across the Lake by Riley Sager, and it has about a 3.59 on Goodreads. I think I've decided that next year I'm not gonna give like number ratings to my reads. I'm more just gonna be like, just categorize them like new favorite, wouldn't recommend, very much recommend, all of those things. I'll think of like a better system when I'm more coherent. But honestly, I don't really take a lot of stock in Goodreads ratings, but I am shocked that The House Across the Lake is this low, or was the lowest of my reads. I know that Riley Sager can be hit or miss for a lot of people. I really loved this book. I know that it's one of Tucker's favorites by Riley Sager. I thought it was really good. I mean, it wasn't my new all-time favorite read, but it was really good, and so I don't think that it deserves that low of a rating, but I guess I kind of get it, since he's one of those authors that's so hit or miss. The highest rated book that I read this year was Kingdom of Ash by Sarah J. Maas. I'm not surprised, because I feel like if you have made it to Kingdom of Ash in this series, then you're already committed and you're gonna love it. So I'm not surprised that this had a 4.66 on Goodreads. I think that if you didn't like Throne of Glass, you would have quit a long time ago, so I'm not surprised that this was so highly rated, and I do think it's deserved. Okay, next we have favorite quotes of the year. I love this prompt. I definitely want to do a better job of keeping track of my favorite quotes next year, but I did quickly skim through some of my books and annotations that I have with me. I know I'm missing some of my favorites, but I'll just quickly go through some of them that I found. From Happy Place, I have, "He laughs against my cheek. I wish I could swallow the sound and that it would put down roots in my stomach and grow through me like a seed." A quote from Legendary by Stephanie Garber. "He looked like a freshly woken storm or a beautiful nightmare come to life so he could personally haunt her. His gaze had already found her. It took a hold of her like a pair of hands wrapping around her waist and holding her in place as he approached." Good was a word people used to describe how they slept at night and bread fresh out of the fire. But he was more like the fire. No one called a fire good. Fires were hot, burning things children were warned not to play with. She was beginning to understand how hearts could be slowly given away without a person even realizing. How sometimes just a look or a rare moment of vulnerability like the one with him he had just shared with her was enough to steal a fraction of a heart. So good. We love quotes. We love reading. Dude, I'm delirious. Okay, we're almost done. Book with the most unique concept. This question was hard. I think that for me, A River Enchanted was really unique because I hadn't read any other folk fantasies before. A book you read that you would reread. The entire Throne of Glass series, which might be like psychotic to say, but it was stunning. Definitely Book Lovers. Definitely Book Lovers. Definitely Happy Place, now that I am aware that it's not a rom-com. And definitely the Once Upon a Broken Heart trilogy after I finish with Caraval. Okay, and then the next two questions are more just like a overall personal reading reflection, but the next one is reading goal reflection for this year and my 2024 reading goal. So for this year, my goal was 40 books read, and I am currently sitting at 53, and I know, what is today? Today's the 12th of December. I'm in the middle of 2 books right now, and which I will definitely finish before the end of the year, and then I have maybe 1 or 2 more I'll be able to read before the end, or I'm hoping to read. I think this might be a little ambitious, but I think I'm gonna put my reading goal next year at 100 books. I think that my main concern, or my main issue with reading this year was I just wasn't very consistent. I would go through kind of like binges of reading where I would read constantly and then months of reading nothing, and so this kind of leads into the next question of, after 2023 reading, what are you prioritizing in 2024? And I think what I really want to prioritize is just consistency. I want to try and be more aware of my burnouts and try to pace myself a little bit better and just really focus on reading what I love and what is calling to me in that moment, and not being too like, oh, I have to read this, this, and this, and all of that, and just kind of being bogged down and not reading anything. I mean, I'm sure I will go through a slump next year, but I really want to try and stay consistent and have something I'm reading all the time. I just want to be more consistent, and I want to be more, focused and mindful with my reading next year. And yeah, those are all the questions on my 2023 book tag. Thank you so much, Destiny, for these awesome questions. I will put them down below if you want to answer them in the comments or make your own little video tag about it. Please feel free, and be sure to tag Destiny in it. But yeah, thank you so much for watching today's video. I hope you enjoyed it. Be sure to like, comment, and subscribe, all that fun YouTube stuff, and turn on those notifications. We are posting a new video every single day of December leading up to Christmas, and as you can tell, we're kind of losing it a little bit, becoming a little delirious, but it's so fun. I love this community, and we are growing so much during this time, and yeah, I wouldn't want you to miss out on any of our fun videos. Love ya. Bye.